the best part of the time, the teacher voices, our amazing and wonderful teachers who are going to share a little bit with you about the work they have done this year. So a couple things I just want to mention to you before they share with us. So this is work that was started. We started this cohort in Dublin back in August, and every 8 weeks we meet and talk about what's been happening in teachers' classrooms and what they've been trying and what's been happening with students and how they're responding to these different kind of grading practices. And so we come together and we talk about what's been going on. And people have that research. They've been doing the research because they've been trying it out in their classrooms. So it's not just guessing work, it's real live work that they have done. That's really awesome. The second thing I want to note is that our awesome teachers, Jennifer and Callan, are being very vulnerable by sharing what they have done and changed and their lens for grading students. They're being very vulnerable by sharing this all with you tonight. So I want to embrace them and support them with an ear for empathy and curiosity as they are sharing with all of us. So we will give them some time to share. They're just gonna talk. And then after that, we'll let people do some questions and responses. I will give you a microphone.
Hi, families. It is a pleasure to be here and talk to you about something that has just really been inspiring in my own classroom for myself as a teacher, for families whose students have been in my room, and for students themselves. This is kind of like Courtney was saying, I have been part of a cohort engaging in the Grading for Equity work. This is actually my second year doing Grading for Equity work, as I also participated with Alameda County Office of Ed last year. So my experience has spanned 2 years, as in Dublin, we're kind of in that first year of what this looks like. I for sure dove right in to this work. It is a huge passion of mine. So when we look at possible grading practices, I've accepted them all and tried them all. And the outcomes for myself as an educator have really been astronomical. When we look at those pillars of grading, I can 100% say I know where my students are accurately, I know what skills they are mastering, I know what skills we're in progress on, and I know what skills I as an educator now need to go back and work for my students. The reason being is because when we look at grades as students in the process of mastering or becoming proficient at a standard or at a particular skill I'm teaching, and I'm only assessing and including that skill in my grade with students, it doesn't water down their grade and it doesn't inflate their grade with things that are unnecessary to grade. Maybe that's something turning it in on time. We're not penalizing a student for something that they might not have control over. It might also be, like Courtney was explaining, homework. Including that in a grade may inflate students' grades who don't have the mastery of content at that current time, but they're all turning their homework in on time. Additionally, it could deflate a student's grade, because if they're mastering assessments and summative assessments 100% of their time, but their classwork has a couple points off because they're still in the learning progress or process, it can drastically drop their grade. So when I look at the accuracy of where my students are in the classroom, I can tell you individually where every student is and where they need to be, because I know exactly what's in their grade. Nothing is skewed anymore. Along the bias resistant and the motivational process, I do also believe that has been a significant experiential shift for students, especially around motivation, because I removed homework from grading, I removed classwork from grading. It made everything I've assigned to students 100% more intentional. So they're, one, motivated to do it because they know exactly where it's going to be on their final assessment or on a performance task or a speech or a presentation that they need to give. And because it's so directly tied to what they're doing in class, they know I need to do it. So these ideas of, oh, well, kids aren't going to do homework or they're not going to try or not turn it in is really kind of gone out the window in my room. And I have very, very, very few students who don't turn in the work. But for those who do need that additional time, I've adopted a no late policy. So students can turn in work, or a no late penalty policy. Students can turn in work at any point in time during the learning progress. So that might be from the beginning of the quarter to the end of the quarter. They can turn it in to me and I will grade it. It won't diminish their grade. Because, and what has been really cool is to have the conversation with my students, what is important to you? Learning or turning it in the day it's due? And every kid will tell you when we have that conversation, it's important that I learn and not necessarily it's important that I turned it in the day, the minute, the hour that it was due. I want to be able to learn the skills, but not be penalized if I miss the due date. So one of those, that motivational piece of being able to have flexibility, being able to engage in the work at a process in which everybody's brain learns has been a humongous shift for students and their comfortability getting evaluations, earning their grades, because they know exactly what they're being graded on using rubrics, and they grade their excuse me, they grade their own selves on the rubrics just like I do. So it's very, very clear. But hey, if you need a little bit more time, they have it. And it's now that lack of stress on them. They have the flexibility. They know that they can turn something in late. Same with having multiple opportunities. I've used that policy for several years now. And hey, you might have gotten a B on your first go round, or you might have gotten a C on your first go round. As a result of you now being able to meet with me, we can go through feedback, talk about what worked, what didn't. They now have the opportunity to take that again. And that has benefited every student in my class. Students who traditionally may earn A's on the first go round, and maybe we missed it a couple times or we needed to circle back to that. It's also benefited students who maybe haven't been as successful in certain content areas and they needed multiple reteach opportunities or time to learn. And every student that we've had these really honest conversations with have been able to articulate to myself, it's so beneficial to me because I don't always learn the first time it's taught. And so when I communicate that to parents on back to school night, or when I have those conversations with kids in class, it's exciting to them to know I don't have to do it right the first time, and I'm not going to be penalized for learning and making a mistake during the process. And when we talk about practice, like the free throw shots, or we talk about dancing, or maybe we're learning a language, or whatever it is, we're all going to make a mistake, adults included. But we shouldn't be held accountable to those mistakes as we're learning. This grading for equity really does open the door for all students to be able to succeed at the time that their brains are learning and have multiple opportunities to re-engage with the work. And throughout these 2 years, that has been just the best piece to see as an educator, is that all students can succeed. Students who are learning multiple languages, students who maybe have an IEP or a 504, students who have traditionally excelled the first time. Everybody in that room benefits from grading for equity. And that has been the best takeaway for myself.
Hi, is it on? Okay, so I'm so glad that Callan is here, and I'm so glad that Callan went first. For multiple reasons, she's wonderful. I'm a high school teacher. I mostly teach seniors, and I've been a teacher for 26 years, 20 years at Dublin, 17 years I've taught AP Literature. So, and oh, by the way, this is my second time I've been on a grading policy committee. I was on the original grading policy committee as well. So my take on all this was not as excited as Callan, but I will say I have come around. But you'll see that I take a little bit more time. I need to warm up to this a little bit more, so I didn't jump right in. And Callan's been working for a couple of years. This is my first year trying to make changes. And I only tackled one pillar. I'm like, I'll try accuracy. We'll see how it goes. So that was my focus, was accuracy. I also did not take the 0 to 4 grading scale because it was too much for me. I teach AP literature. It's a 6-point rubric, a 5-point assessment when they take the exam, and a 4-point grading scale I could not wrap my head around. So I took a baby step. I will tell you that I'm going to try it next year. Everything that I did this year built my confidence, and I think that I can make it work and I can tackle it for next year. I did 3 moves in my grades for accuracy. So the first thing that I did is I accepted late work for full credit. Because I teach seniors, they're really, our students in Dublin, they're very, very committed to multiple things. And just sometimes the work gets away from them and they need a little bit of time. And I don't feel comfortable giving them a grade based on their ability to turn in work on time. I only feel comfortable giving them a grade based on what they show me they have learned. It's really important that the grade in my class match with their learning, not with whether or not they can turn it in on time. I think that's really important. That does present some problems for me because at the end of a quarter or semester, I have a bunch of late work that I need to go through and grade, and I need to do it with fidelity. I need to make sure I'm looking at it carefully and assessing them accurately. So that is a challenge, and I'm still working on it. And I'm getting better at setting like more specific deadlines for when the late work can be in to give myself time to get it all graded. But the kids know that when they complete an assignment, I'm gonna look at it and grade it for their, skill level. So they still put a lot of effort into it. It's not like, well, I'm only gonna get 50%, so I'm just gonna turn whatever in, right? They're still really trying and they're still really learning, right? Because they want to get that full credit on that assignment. The other thing that I did is I increased the percent for my summative assessments. So I made my summative assessments 70% of their grade. And it's mostly like quizzes, exams, and essays. Those are how I do summative assessments for AP Literature. And I decreased the amount of points they could get for notes or assignments in class. And I'm actually going to increase my summative assessments even more next year. I was a little nervous because what I teach them in August, or actually their summer work, so what they're learning in July, they have to remember in May. So I was nervous about like not making it worth points, that they wouldn't do it, but they did. They did it this year and they did it well. And so I have more confidence about it. So I'm going to continue to do that. The other thing that I did was I created like a sliding scale for my grading. So when a kid comes in and gives me an essay, the number of points that essay is worth is not the same as at the end of the year, because I want them to have time to learn, right? They come in, I have them write an essay on the first day about the summer reading. I don't think it's fair to assess them when I haven't really taught them anything. So I might make that assessment worth 15 points. By the end of the year, as they're writing essays, those are 40-point essays. So we're now together, they're learning and they're gaining confidence and skills. And so I shift that scale. I do that with my rubrics as well. So at the beginning, when I'm assessing certain skills, I slide that scale over so they can feel that success and have that confidence. And then as my expectations go up, that scale starts to slide over a little bit for them. I want to go back to the analogy of the practice and the basketball. The other thing that happens in AP, because AP kids do everything, they do all their work, right? So what happens is they're told every time they turn in an assignment, notes, homework, they're told it's an A, right? So they have an A in the class. If they have an A in the class, they believe they are exceeding my expectations, right? So what then do they have to learn from me if they have an A? If you're getting points because you completed something, that's not an accurate assessment of your understanding of the material. And if you get a B on it, that means you have things you still need to learn. And they understand that, right? I understand here is where I fell short. I can see it on the rubric. So it's not a matter of I did it, I get points. It's a matter of I did it, here's where I achieved, here's where I still need to work. And their language has shifted, not all of them, but some of them, from I need to know why I lost points to, can you tell me where my analysis was off? Because I see you put some notes here, right? And we're talking about learning and we're not talking about grades. And I have not seen a difference in their grades. And I did a quick survey, and 83% of them said their grade was accurate for the class. 60% of them still are getting A's in my class. 34% are getting B's. I mean, they're really high achieving kids. So I'm not noticing a difference. Their grades are not slipping. And as an AP teacher, I am very concerned with college. I'm very concerned that they are represented well when they're headed to college. They're trying to get into really, really amazing top schools. And so I wanted to be very cautious. I kind of dipped my toes in, trying to make sure, everything was going well, and I've been very happy with it. Next year, I'm going to use the adjust to the 0 to 4 scale in my film is lit classes, and I'm also going to try adjusting my rubrics and incorporating some of it into my AP lit classes.
Thank you so much, Kellen and Jennifer. That was amazing. I'm just standing there like, oh yes, all the things. So we are now going to shift a little bit into a question and response time. So this is how it will work, because we have people who are yes in the room, and we have people who are yes online with the webinar. Hi, Zoom folks. So what we'll do is we're going to alternate between live questions that are here and questions that people are going to fill in the chat on the webinar. So folks who are watching this live stream, you can feel free to drop questions in the chat. And like I said, we're going to kind of bounce back and forth between the two, and Matt will read our questions that are coming through from our webinar folks. And I can be the Oprah and go around to everybody. And then can you all just share that mic? So the questions can be for anything. It can be the teachers about their practice and what they've experienced. It can be me about grading for equity and Crescendo stuff. It can be questions to Matt about larger district stuff with Dublin. So we can all kind of answer different things for folks, okay? So I saw someone back there. Oh, this is a big room. Maybe I made the wrong choice, Oprah, but okay.
Yes, I teach 6th grade core, so that's ELA and history. I have previously taught math. I've taught elementary school, so my experience does range, but currently I teach 6th grade core and intervention at Cottonwood.
Yes, we do. The one question is, we have such large sizes, strengths in the classroom.
This is true. We do have classes that can vary in size. That is 100% correct. From a teacher perspective, it has made it 100% more efficient on my side to be able to use grading for equity. I can get grades back to students faster because I'm no longer grading classwork and practice or homework. I might give feedback on many items to say, this is how you could improve. But because I'm not grading every last thing that my students are doing, I can really intentionally sit down and focus on their summative assessments, what they present to me at the end of a learning cycle or learning opportunity, and give really accurate feedback there. So it has truly eliminated a lot of extra work and made what I do grade 1,000 times more intentional and a better experience for students.
I agree. For me, it hasn't really changed anything. I'm still grading most things that I'm assigning, so it's no different for me, really. Hopefully I get there next year. We'll see.
Cool. Yes, I'll come to you.
Hi, thank you so much for the presentation, and thank you for organizing this. My question is more fundamental, having been on the task force as a parent lead. Last 1 year, I've heard a lot of information, very educational. I want to go farther back and ask what triggered having these changes in the school district, because as I see it, everything that was presented here was fairly generic and academic. I want to know what triggered trying to apply something that is so generic to a school district like ours. And I'm sorry, I will disagree with you on the bias part, because I don't think our teachers are biased the way it was presented. I think that was a very gentle statement against our teachers, and I would like to disagree with that. Basically, what triggered that? Because this is a school district that bucked the trend and improved scores during the pandemic, and I understand the whole nation had a hard time, including kids in the school district. It's a high-achieving school district, and there are many things that are unique to this school district that I want to know if it was factored into applying something so academic, I would say bookish, to our school district. Thank you.
So I don't know if we can answer that exactly. I can tell you from my perspective a little bit why I'm interested in it, and I think you're right. I think it's partially the pandemic. So when learning changed fundamentally, we were on distance learning. I think that we made changes to how we graded. And we made changes to what was, an acceptable way to assess a student, because we didn't have them, and we had to rethink everything, basically. Then we came back from the pandemic, and there was a year of kids are relearning how to do school. So I think all of us were really showing some grace. And I know that even the state of California loosened some of the requirements for seniors on what was required for them to graduate. So everybody was aware that there were some things that were concerning and we needed to rethink. Well, now we're kind of back to normal. I don't know. And I think that it has caused me to reflect on my grading in a way that I don't want to just do what I always did. And I don't think what I was doing during the pandemic is an accurate way to assess students anymore. So what is it that I am trying to achieve by issuing a grade to students? And I don't think it's just our school. I think this is like a whole, I want to say, West Coast thing that's happening, where teachers are thinking about what is it that we are trying to assess, and are we assessing students accurately? And so it's opening up some really good discussions and rethinking of how we do things.
I'll share a little bit kind of in related to what from a teacher's perspective may have triggered this too. I think about the question Courtney asked you guys earlier, think about a grading experience, right? Many of us might have thought of a negative one. Many of us might have thought of a positive one. For myself, I grew up in a school that very much did these grading practices inherently before it was called grading for equity. So when I think about how I approached grading even before this, I wasn't concerned with whether or not my student turned something in on a Thursday or the next Monday. I was concerned on whether or not the learning was evident in what they submitted to me. So we also have to think about the whole history of grading. And when we consciously reflect on how students and adults have been ingrained to approach grading, it's time to rethink that, because it has perpetuated over time this machine of students do X, Y, Z, we get sorted into these groups based off an A, B, C, D, or F. Is that truly an accurate measure? Because it has included all these other things in a traditional grade. So for myself, that's what comes up for me and why I personally was interested as well. And I think that could have an effect on our schools. Yes, we are a high achieving district, have many high achieving students. We also have students that need flexibility and support. And we as educators need to rethink how we approach that. Same with our district as a whole.
Are you going to answer that too, Matt?
Yeah, thanks, Jasmitha. I think that the pandemic has allowed us to take a pause and for us to reflect. And for me personally, I think intentionality is extremely important. Walking into this space, we all have an assumption about grades. I was a teacher, and through my credential program, nobody said one word to me about grading. I showed up in the classroom and I didn't even have a conversation with any of my colleagues about it. What I knew was what I knew from going to school, the 0 to 100% scale. And I think that what we also have to caution ourselves is that the current system works for everybody. And we have an incredible district. We have excellent leadership, we have dedicated teachers, and we have students that are high achieving. And with that being said, is there something else that we can do through an equity lens that will make all students be successful? And so the question, Shasmitha, is that moving toward equitable grading practices, the students that are successful, the students that are accomplished, they're going to continue to be successful, and they are going to continue to receive their high marks, because we're going to moving to a system that is based on content knowledge and mastery. Those students will achieve. And in addition to that, giving extra time, additional resources, giving them additional time or to make up a test to demonstrate mastery, I think more students will be successful. And so that's really the reason, so that we want to move to equitable grading practices. Do you want to go to an online question?
An online person, and then we'll pop back into the room.
It was kind of already talked about, but it's about homework. So Callan and Jennifer, if the homework isn't on the grade, what incentives do students have to complete the homework?
For me, because it's so intentional, what I do assign to students and what they are doing in their homework is incredibly related to what their learning experience is and will be assessed on. They see the results of, if I don't do this, I now don't have a skill, or I now may not have practiced that skill to make it settle in my brain so I can now demonstrate it. So when you change from not grading homework or not grading a practice in class, initially kids might think, oh, great, right? I don't have to do this. But because they then very quickly see the ramifications of not doing it, because it is so intentional, it becomes that motivational piece. I want to do this because I know it's going to help me do well on my assessment.
So I still grade the homework, but it's less, percent value. But they still do it, even though it's less. They're still doing the homework. They're AP kids, so they still do it. I have heard teachers say that a student can attempt to take an assessment without doing the homework. And if they are successful, well then, they didn't need to do the homework. They achieved it and they soaked it in class or something else, right? But if they didn't do well on the assessment, then they will need to complete the homework in order to do the retake, right? So we're not just going to keep letting you take the assessment and fail over and over again. You're going to go back and do the work to make sure you're prepared for that assessment, and then you can retake it and try again. So I've seen a couple of different ways.
I'm going to come to this side of the room because I was over there and I want it to be just that side. I get to answer questions. So, yes.
Thank you all. It was a great presentation. I love the system. My question is about implementation. How is the district planning to implement it over time, and how will we ensure that it is equitable and there will be consistency among the teachers?
Yeah, that's a good question. We the district, we're working with teachers that are in the grading cohort, working with the site admin. We really, one of the reasons why we want to implement it in 25, 26, it's 2 school years. And so we want to really take our time. We want to build the foundations. There's a lot of work for us to do to get here. It's, so for example, we need to make sure that we are going to be grading on the standards. You've heard Callan and Jennifer talk about standards, it's mastery of the standards. And so the first thing we have to do is work with our teacher teams to make sure that we have looking at all of our courses in every grade level and making sure that we have identified the essential standards in every class. In addition to that, we have to make sure that we establish a pacing guide for every class. And in addition to that, there's going to have to be some rubrics. They're going to be associated with the standards. So when the teacher then assigns whatever they assign, then they have the corresponding rubric that is now going to grade the particular standard. So that's going to take time, right? That's a lot of time that we have to take. And so then there's a variety of different tasks that we're going to have to go through. Now, in addition to just providing the work, there's a lot of professional development. We really want our teachers to feel comfortable moving into this new realm. We have a series of professional development days next year. We have some professional development days that are associated with the minimum days. And so then we're going to start on our first minimum day. I don't know the date. I think it's September the 11th. It's associated with a PD. Our first PD day is November the 1st. And so that is going to be dedicated to, again, spreading awareness and spreading the content knowledge for our teachers on this. Next year, we have 2 cohorts moving forward. We have the teachers that are this year, they're going to move forward in year 2. And then also, like, it's incredible. We have 80 teachers signed up for a new cohort. So we have a group of 80 teachers now that are going to be in year 1, right? And so then, and in addition to that, we're going to provide some, I mentioned the training for our admin. We have an admin retreat later this year in June, and we're going to dedicate half of the day, 3/4 of the day to this particular topic. So our administrators, our site administrators feel comfortable in this space. So that's kind of the outline of the plan. Yeah, that's going to be the challenge, right? So when we do, you're right. So that's going to be have to have a lot of communication, and the site admin have to be aware of it. And so you're right. So that's going to be the challenge. You want to do an online question?
Let me get another one from in here, just because this side hadn't gotten too much time. There you go.
Thank you so much. Just as a disclaimer, this is going to be more of a comment because I have so many questions and I decided to come in here. I would like to express myself, so please bear with me. How I would like to start is basically, why is this district trying to push this radical change and force it, making it seem like it's absolutely essential when most of the parents feel it is not? The current system is functioning well, and all it needs is proper enforcement of certain board policies and fixing some cracks. Even from what I'm hearing from you both, the main agenda that's really helping is the resubmissions, accepting the late works. These are minor changes that can be made in the existing system without revamping the whole system. The goal and the intent of creating the grading task force was something else, and that's what we were told about. I think even the members of the parent community who joined the task force, and many of the teachers even, I would say, they were given very different intention. They were given very different goals when the task force was created, but then it was just changed to something else, absolutely different. Just to give an analogy, might sound stupid to someone, but it just came to my mind, so I would share. It was literally as if you went to a car dealership shop, taking your brand new car that just needed a regular maintenance. Instead of getting that fixed, you get approached by a sales guy pitching you for a second-hand, broken down car, and you're being forced to take it. This is how the parent community is feeling right now. Other than that, I really, really feel the fact that Sushmita mentioned, I don't know, I think in the beginning, probably it was mentioned that most of the districts or the schools that the Crescendo system or the education group has worked with are Title I. I don't understand the whole logic behind it because as far as I understand, and I don't have much knowledge about it, I don't think we are a Title I, so I would like to find out what exactly is Title I. I personally feel our district is a high achieving school district.
Our students are high performers. And when we're talking about how the pandemic hit every single school district, which Mr. Campbell also mentioned, we do need to look at the test scores. Dublin School District had an opposite trend from all the other school districts. Our numbers, our test scores actually increased. So why do we need this revamping is what the parents want to know. And I am speaking on behalf of many parents. I'm part of many WhatsApp groups because I have 3 students in the district. So I am aware of what the parents are feeling. Not everybody could join in today's presentation. I don't know if it was intentional or if it was a coincidence, but there is a DHS night rally going on. There is a Fallon band concert going on, and there are other things going on. So I don't think this grading for equity propaganda presentation got its due approval or buy-in from the parents. The parents are feeling cheated and betrayed, and which is not a good thing. Even on the basis of all the reviews that I read for the book, I did not have time. I'm a working professional like most parents are. I did not have time to read the grading for equity book, but I read most of the reviews, and some of them from teachers who are 15, 30-year plus veteran teachers, and their agenda was that there are some practical aspects to this book, but no school district should be following it blindly. We are doing this whole grading for equity based on one Joe Feldman's book, which really doesn't make sense. The main aspect that some of the reviews mentioned was the idea of students losing the opportunity to learn soft skills. The very fact that you are saying that homework might not be graded, it doesn't need to be turned in, I am going to tell you, students will not turn it in. Where are they going to learn the soft skill of discipline, of submitting things on time, taking responsibility for their work? It's not going to happen. As parents, we really feel that school is a second home for our child. We teach them behavioral skills, we teach them life skills, and we send them to school and expect the same. But these organizational skills, responsibilities, all these soft skills, you are basically taking that away from our child's education from the school. So all in all, I want to say I am all up for equity. And as a member of the EHS design team, one of the presentations meetings that we attended had a wonderful concept of multi-tiered support system for students who need it. If our school district has great high achievers and the school district will not share the percentages of how many A's, B's, C's, D's, and F's we have in our students, but we know for a fact based on the test scores, based on the star reading math testing, that we have high achievers. So if there is only a small percentage of students who are actually not doing well or they need that extra help, what we need to work on instead of paying Crescendo Group or a Joe Feldman is to think about a multi-tiered support system for those students that need that extra help. Provide equity to all by giving them a platform so they can realize their full potential, not make a system that might pull down the high achieving students, which is a drawback from what even Mr. Feldman said, that there is going to be a drop of percentage of grades and performance of high achieving students. So I think as a high school senior parent who has seen what a head scratcher of a process college admissions is, we are going to add one more layer of complication to our child's acceptance to a good school that he or she might be deserving. But because of this whole revamping radical change in a school district, my child is going to suffer in the future, and I'm not going to let that happen. This is a school district, and I'm speaking on behalf of many, many parents. We are not going to let this happen, and we are not accepting this autocracy from the teachers and the school. Thank you.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah. How are you? Nice seeing you, and thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. It's 8. We have 5 minutes to 8, and I want to be mindful and respectful of time. We had a sixth. We had a We had a 6:30 to 8 o'clock stop time, so I just want to be respectful to the people. I want to be respectful to the teachers and to everybody in the audience, and so I'm willing to stay here and answer questions and have conversations, but I just think that we just need to be respectful of time and then turn it off at 8 o'clock and allow the teachers to go home. I just wanted to say in terms of the date, I picked this date, way back in, like August or so. I wasn't, that was something that was selected. I apologize. I know that there's a lot going on in the district. The end of the calendar is really challenging to be able to find the right dates. But also I can tell you is that, when we bring this back to the board, we plan on doing a study session. And so then we can hear from the community and, the community can learn more about the direction in which we want to head. So again, thank you. We heard you and we heard you. We like passionate people. It's okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, go ahead.
So good evening. Just parents who are afraid that their high achieving students will not get opportunities. Your children will always have opportunities because they're high achieving. Grading for equity, that's for the students who are down here and need that extra support. So don't be afraid that your child will not have opportunities. They will. They will always have those doors open. But there's some students out there and family members, and they're not here probably because they're working 2 jobs, but I'm here to represent them because my parents were those parents and they never came to any meetings and they never, and I went through the system alone, and I worked hard. So, I don't want you to give anything to my child. I want them to work hard for that. I want that to be understood. However, there are students who, for example, work really hard and then they take a final exam and guess what? They don't pass that class. And it happens multiple times because of math, because there's systems, because there's no one at home that can help them with certain things. So grading for equity is not going to take from your child. It's just going to give to others a little bit more. So don't be afraid that your kid's not getting into those great schools. In fact, the system, the way it is, a lot of our kids aren't getting into the schools. If you've had seniors lately, you'll find out that even the 4.5s are competing. So don't blame it on that other child that really needs a system like this to succeed.
Okay, we have a couple minutes left. Courtney, any closing thoughts? Yeah. Can you just hold on a sec? I apologize, but let's just close this out, and then I just want to close out the live stream and close it out, and then we'll continue. So, Courtney, any closing thoughts?
There's things after this, but if people want to continue talking, they can talk, and we'll just not necessarily end with what is there.
Great. I want to let's give Jennifer and Callan a nice round of applause. We all start our day early in the morning, and Jennifer and Callan started early in the morning and have been going all day. So it's now 8 o'clock. So thank you so much. Okay, thank you everybody at home. Appreciate it, and thanks for tuning in. And you will hear more from the district about this. Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah. So they stopped the. Okay, gotcha.